Does your grocery store sometimes cheat on the prices? I am kicking the crock pot out of the house. Okay, let's cook some dinner. Hey everyone, it's a new week and I have 3 recipes that I'm gonna make this week. And I'm gonna use 3 different proteins. We're gonna do fish, beef, and chicken. Tonight we're gonna do fish tacos and we're gonna use this rockfish. This is from Azure Standard. And I have that, it's almost thawed. So while that finishes thawing, I am gonna make our sides, our toppings and whatnot. Tonight I'm gonna try a new Mexican rice recipe and it's gonna be out of this book. I do have another Mexican rice recipe that I've used in the past, but it has chunked tomatoes, like I use diced tomatoes, and so those stay in the rice and it's part of the texture, and my family doesn't like it. They don't like the chunks of tomatoes. So we're gonna try this recipe. It's a baked Mexican rice recipe, and everything is like homogenous in there, you know? It does call for fresh tomatoes. I'm gonna sub these in. It calls for 2 large tomatoes. I'm not exactly sure how many tomatoes are in a can of this, but I think they're little tomatoes, like little Romas. So I'm not quite sure. We're just gonna drain it and hope for the best. Everything goes in the food processor, so I think it'll work. For the sides, we're gonna do cilantro and onion chopped up and mixed together. We've also got salsa to put on top, and we have this wild brine. This is really good. Basically, it's a twist on sauerkraut. It's a salsa verde sauerkraut. So the ingredients are green cabbage, onions, tomatillos, Anaheim peppers, salt, cilantro, jalapenos, lime juice, garlic, chipotle pepper flakes. So it doesn't taste like sauerkraut at all. If you don't like sauerkraut, you can't even gauge that by this, because I don't like sauerkraut and I like this. So we've got those, and then I have some homemade sour cream. Well, I suppose it's not the most appetizing thing in this jar because this is almost a week old now. I used the Scratch Pantry recipe, and it's just heavy cream and it's heavy cream and yogurt, and I was worried that it would just taste like yogurt, because that's basically how you make yogurt, is milk and then yogurt, and you culture it. So the difference with this was it's way more yogurt per milk, like parts to milk, and then you also just use heavy cream instead of milk. So it's great. It does taste like sour cream, maybe slightly different, but not enough to care for me. I'm the only one that really eats the sour cream. My husband doesn't like it. So we've got this as a topping. We've got avocados. I'm gonna squash these up, I think. I don't think I'm gonna do anything too fancy to these. I'm just gonna let them be avocado. Maybe I'll put a little bit of lime juice in, but I also might put the lime juice in my sour cream, make like a crema. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Does your grocery store sometimes cheat on the prices? These were on sale, 3 for $5, which is still just a lot of money for some avocados. And they rang up for $6. And this happens all the time at our grocery store. It makes you not want to shop at a grocery store, because the prices just don't match when you get to the register, and then you're kind of sitting there haggling, and it's just really uncomfortable, and ain't nobody got time for that kind of thing. But anyway, I got my avocados and I only paid $5. So also, womp womp. I said I was gonna make my own tortillas for taco nights. In my last Azure haul, I said I bought the burritos, but that I was gonna try to at least make my own taco tortillas. I'm very tired today, and I'm giving myself grace, and they were 2 for $4 at the grocery store. I had to haggle those too, if you were wondering, but I got them. So next time. Okay, let's cook some dinner. First, I am gonna chop up this onion. I don't think I'm gonna need this whole onion, so I'm gonna store the other half in the fridge. Hopefully use it tomorrow or the next day. I'm trying to remember what I'm making. And then I'm gonna chop up this guy. Yes, dear. You got leaves? Are they downstairs? I saw you guys running past with the sticks. It was really cute.
They ran like half the block.
You guys gonna sleep well tonight?
Hi.
So I just said that I didn't need the other half of that onion, and then I realized the Mexican rice calls for an onion. But I think I'm still gonna put that half in the fridge, and I'm gonna cut up an entire onion for the Mexican rice. Right now, I'm just gonna get this cilantro chopped up. I need half a cup for my rice dish, and then the rest is gonna go in my cilantro and onions. Woo, I'm crying. Here are the cilantro and onions. This has become my husband's favorite topping, which is funny because he thought for the longest time that he really didn't like onions, raw onions anyway, on top of his tacos. And then some friends of ours had this at a taco bar sort of dealie as a topping once, and my husband tried it and now he absolutely loves this, but it has to have the cilantros in there or he will not put the raw onions on his taco. I can't blame him. I don't blame him. I'm not putting raw onions on mine either, but okay, next I need to cut up this jalapeno. If I have to do a bunch of jalapenos, I put gloves on because I've had some really bad experiences getting jalapenos under my nails. Woo! This is a hot one though, man. I might take that back. I'm just gonna try really to be careful here. I am gonna take the ribs and the seeds out because we are serving little kids this rice. This is gonna go in the rice, by the way. And I don't think my kids will appreciate if it's spicy. I'm still trying to decide how I'm gonna cook the fish. I'm definitely going to season it, like taco seasoning, which is a blend that we make here at home rather than buying at the store. But I don't know, so I've grilled it in the past, like on a little griddle on our grill. That works really nicely. But it's really cold and windy, and I think we're low on propane, so I don't think the grill is the play today. Also, the oven will have the rice in it, so I might just make it on the stovetop, fry it up with some oil and butter, and the taco seasoning. That should be okay. Interestingly, this recipe starts in the Dutch oven. This is the Mexican rice recipe, and then it gets put in the oven. So I am gonna get this going. For the sauce, I ended up using 6 of the little, they do look like Romas, the little tomatoes. I put them in here. I still have, well, the lid fell in, but I have about half the jar. And okay, so I just read the recipe and I'm actually a little not thrilled with it because they want you to blend this up and then pour it in a measuring cup and discard anything over 2 cups of liquid, which just sounds wasteful. And I think this looks like a lot more than 2 cups, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's blend it up. Before I see how much that made, I need to revisit my oil situation here. I drizzled some oil in here like I normally do when I'm making like Mexican rice. And then I looked at the recipe. It actually wants you to use a 1/3 cup. You're kind of, the technique is basically that they want you to fry the rice. So I'm going to add some more oil. It calls for vegetable oil. This is avocado oil. Ooh, that's just the rubber seal. I need to fix that. That's nothing gross though. No worries. So I'm going to heat this up, and then it wants you to toss a couple grains of rice in and see if they sizzle. And if they sizzle, then you can add the rest, but otherwise you have to wait. Okay, that is definitely more than 2 cups. I think I'm just going to use it all. I don't know. I usually don't like to change recipes the first time I make them, but I don't want to throw that away. The recipe also calls for garlic and tomato paste. I freeze them both in pucks. So I'm just going to take one of these out and then some tomato paste. These are so easy to freeze. You know, you open a can, you only use a tablespoon. Well, you just take the rest. You can use like a cookie scooper, you know, the kind that clicks and drops it on. Well, anyway, you can do that and then place some parchment paper over it and just gently pat them down so they're nice and uniform. And then freeze them and then put them in bags. Okay, I have added my rice. That had a nice sizzle to it, especially because it was rinsed. So all the water and the oil got loud in here. But this cooks for, I don't know, 6 minutes, and then I think you add the garlic and jalapeno. Okay, now it's time to put the lid on and stick this in the oven, and then it bakes for a while. And I seasoned the fish on both sides with this taco seasoning. I'll put the recipe in the description box. And I have my butter and olive oil blending up together. I really like cooking fish in this combination. I feel like they retain their juice a lot better. Okay, here's our full taco bar setup. This rice was amazing, and the extra cup of tomato onion mixture, I didn't notice that I did anything different. It was delicious, and I would probably do that on purpose next time. And then here are all our toppings. This meal was amazing. It was a hit, and I can't wait to do another taco night again soon. Hey everyone, it's the next day. I'm gonna cook dinner up a little early tonight. It's early afternoon, but I'm making white chicken chili, which I can just finish and leave on the stove, and then if it cools down a little, we can just heat it back up later and it'll be done. So here is what I'm gonna do. All right, when we eat a soup or chili or anything like that, I usually make a loaf of bread just in case the kids have a hard time with dinner. I will link this recipe down below. So this is just a nice, easy loaf of bread. I started it last night. It's the kind that you just mix up in a bowl and it sits overnight, and then in the morning you bake it. And then this was just an experiment. This is home ground flour, and that doesn't look good at all. But anyway, and that's our sandwich bread. So our white chicken chili is gonna cook here. Now I'm changing the recipe a little bit because it calls for hominy. And it's great that way, but I have a really hard time sourcing a high quality can of hominy. Usually it has other stuff in it, other junk in it, and I don't feel great about that. So also Azure doesn't seem to carry hominy. So it's like, even if I think ahead, I can't seem to come up with a good solution for this. So I'm going to try it with corn. So the way the recipe usually works is you blend some of the hominy up with some broth and add it to your mixture, and then you also add some intact hominy into your soup. So I'm going to do a cup of corn, blend it up with the broth, pour it in, and then just add some fresh corn. I'm also going to add a can of white beans that the recipe doesn't call for, just to add some extra protein in there, and it's also a great little finger food for the baby to eat. So I'm going to get cooking. Also worth mentioning, I buy our poblanos organic from Azure in bulk, and I chop them up and freeze them. So we need to get these out of the freezer, but this is a really nice way to just have this on hand and not have to run to the store all the time for just a fresh pepper. I've got my pepper, onion, cumin, coriander, and a garlic puck in here cooking up. They're gonna cook for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna cook in a little bit of flour to thicken everything up. Here's the chicken that I'm gonna put in the chili. This would be easier with a boneless cut of chicken, but I really need to use these bone-in, skin-on thighs up. So it doesn't really make a difference other than ease of shreddability. You know, once it comes out of the pot, you have to wait for it to cool down a little bit more so you can really get in there and get it off the bone. But this will be fine. And if you wanna make this, I encourage you to just use what you have on hand, because that's the best we can do, right? I simmered my corn mixture with the extra corn, some broth, and the chicken in this pot until the chicken was ready to be pulled out. And then I let it cool for a really long time just so I could shred it comfortably, and I added it all back in. And this was dinner. I served it with some crusty bread with some butter on it, and it was delicious. Hi everyone, it's the last day of this series of meals. Today I'm going to be doing a Korean beef recipe. I have 3 different Korean beef recipes depending on what cut of meat I have available. I do a ground beef one sometimes, and then I also have one for shaved beef, but I don't have any of that in stock right now. This one is meant for beef roasts as well as just any kind of cubed steak, you know. So today what I have available, we're sort of in mission clean out our freezers because we have a lot of meat coming, and I have 2 packs left of beef stew meat. This is from a locally raised beef, and we are quite sick of beef stew, so I need to just do something else with them. And since you would be cutting the roast into cubes anyway, this is going to be a good use for that. So I'm going to get this into my crock pot, and then I'm actually going to try something new today. I am kicking the crock pot out of the house. It is going to go out on the deck because I feel like I can never get the smell of beef or roast or whatever that I'm cooking in the crock pot out of the house. It takes days, and I'm gonna try this. My husband has an extension cord that runs out there because we have a smoker, and so I thought, why not just set the crock pot out there, plug it into the same extension cord. If it can run the smoker, it can run the crock pot, right? Surely. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna mix up the sauce, get the beef in there, pour it in, and then I'll take y'all out and we'll get it all plugged in and set up. Okay, we're gonna get started mixing this up. I have 2 of my garlic pucks. They've been sitting in here thawing for a little bit, so they should stir easily into our mix. It calls for beef broth, and this is home canned beef broth. I'm gonna add some of it now and some of it later. So here is the 1/2 cup of beef broth. Set that to the side. It also needs 1/2 cup of soy sauce. This brand is really clean. We get it from Azure. Okay, next I'm gonna add organic rice vinegar. I also get this from Azure Standard. Sometimes I have a hard time finding the organic stuff in the store. Basically, all my sauces are from Azure Standard because there aren't very clean options in our grocery stores by us. Same for the sesame oil. Really like this brand. Napa Valley Naturals. I've noticed that a lot of Asian flavored sauces, they tend to have a lot of preservatives and coloring in them. And I found some clean alternatives for some of them, but I'm still struggling with some things like hoisin sauce and whatnot. So now we need to add pepper, onion powder, and it calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger. I hardly ever keep fresh ginger. Maybe someday I'll be better, but I bought this in bulk, so I'm just gonna use dry ginger because it's what I have. The last thing I have to add to my mix is a 1/3 cup of brown sugar. We buy our regular sugar in bulk, and then we add molasses and make our own brown sugar. It definitely smells a lot stronger and richer than store-bought brown sugar. This is really an easy recipe. It just takes a minute to whisk this sauce together, and then you just serve it over rice, maybe put some veggies on the side. As weird as it is, I'm probably gonna serve it with sweet potato because I have to give our dog some medicine today, and she will only take it if it's wrapped in sweet potato and then basically shoved down her throat. So we're gonna have some extra sweet potato from that. Okay, now I need to get my meat in the crock pot. Ooh, these scissors are getting dull. We have had our knife set for a really long time, and it is embarrassing how dull it is. And we don't own a knife sharpener, but a knife sharpener costs about the same as our knife set costs, so should we just buy a new knife set? I don't know. We haven't decided. I've noticed this stew meat can be a little tough. We've tried to use it on kebabs before, and it definitely was not the best cut of meat. So I'm hoping that this slow and low in a crock pot is conducive to this meat. In it goes. I'll have to scrape that brown sugar out. Hey, it works. Hey. Cool. It's hard to show you how tender this was, but it was tender and delicious. It's a tried and true. We make it all the time. So thank you for joining, and I hope you got some ideas this week, and we will see you again next time. Bye.